Welcome everybody to another episode of the Third Hour of Power. This is Grady of This Mormon Life, and with me this week is my lovely wife, Christy of Our Crazy Adventure. Hi, honey.
Hey, sweetheart. Thanks for having me.
I am so glad you're here. We've had a super busy week. We went to California. The kids were on fall break, and so we had a good time there. And then we got home, and today's been one of our birthday parties for our son. And, it's always a busy time. And so we're excited we had a chance to get together this evening and podcast for you guys and basically talk about the lessons from the Ezra Taft Benson manual. This week we're talking about lesson 19, which is on leadership, which I have a lot of passionate opinions on. But in order to kind of mellow me out a little bit, Christy's here, and she usually keeps me in check and tells me that I'm being too prideful. And that's why I invited her a few weeks ago, and she's here again with us. So, honey, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And if you want to get to know you better, where would someone get to know you better?
You can go to my blog at Our Crazy Adventure, Kerr, crazy, like our last name, and check out some fun things what we do for our family.
Wonderful.
We just promote families and family life.
Yeah, there's all kinds of cool ideas on there. So in lesson 19, one of the things I like is it talked about President Benson's leadership style, and that, he was someone who listened to everyone's opinion, and that he wasn't someone who tried to lead because he was president of the church and tried to say, this is what I'm saying, this is what goes. He gave everyone a voice. And I like the ideas that there seems to be kind of a thing that happens in a lot of councils that I've served on where we talk a lot and we have really good discussions, but we sometimes have a hard time then getting to a plan of action that we're going to do based on our discussion. We talk, we feel good, and that sounds great, but then we never do anything about it. And President Benson was really against that. And so he would let a discussion go on because it was important that they had time to understand the issue, talked about solutions, and then it says one of the phrase he would usually say at some point in the discussion, he'd say, well, I think we've got enough hay down. Now let's bail a little. And that would basically bring the issue to resolution where they'd say, okay, here are our solutions. What are we going to do? And I think it's just an important thing for a leader to be able to get everyone involved in the decision-making process, but at the same time, move towards making a decision.
Absolutely. I think you're right. And have a goal and set a goal as a group. Another thing I like a lot was he talked about effective ways that we can be a leader. And it was really great learning a little bit about his history and how he was prepared. What a great leader he was for our church. It talks about in the lesson how it's important that we stand firm in our faith and set a good example. It says here, if you are to provide future leadership for our church, country, or our home, we must stand firm in the faith, unwavering in the face of evil. As Paul said, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to withstand against the wiles of the devil. And he goes on to list other things that we can fight against in Ephesians. And really important for us, I was thinking, sometimes it makes sense to have lessons on prayer, scripture study, those kind of things, but it's also really important that we talk about leadership. And I was thinking how important it is that each of us strive to be good leaders, because each of us are going to be leaders, whether in our callings or in our homes, and how important it is that we are good leaders. And I think having a firm testimony is really important in helping us to be a good leader. And I also like how he says that young people, I was thinking especially my children or the youth of our church, need fewer critics and more role models, and how important that we do not criticize, but that we strive to promote and encourage and be a good role model of how we should effectively lead. He goes on to list different effective leadership qualities, and the first one is your favorite, humility. Really important that we can work on being humble and striving to think of other people first. The next one he lists, which I really love a lot, is the importance of spiritual strength and how essential it is to have the Holy Ghost so we can properly lead. Because we must have the spirit of inspiration whether we are teaching or ministering to the affairs of the kingdom. Says there is no substitute for the Spirit. And I like that a lot, because if we want to do the Lord's will, if we're here to lead the Lord's church, then we need to make sure that we have His Spirit with us so that we can do the things that the Lord wants us to do, or He would do if He were here.
Yeah, and I like the part you talked about the youth and how important they are, that they need examples of leadership and also opportunities to lead. I always liked, it seemed like President Eyring during the pre-secession of conference There's probably about 4 conferences in a row where his comments were directed straight towards our Aaronic priesthood quorum presidents. And I think it was talking about very strong leadership principles in these young men. I don't really remember my experience being a quorum president in deacons and teachers and being an assistant as a priest. I remember going to BYC and we talk about the kids that were inactive, and I thought, why are we talking about these inactive kids? I totally missed the whole entire purpose of that. And I think that there's been a lot right now being done to help our youth benefit from being a quorum president and not just having leaders that entertain and come up with fun activities that keep the kids, engaged, but that the leaders are giving the youth chances and opportunities to lead their quorum and lead their program in ways that help their class or their quorum gain spiritual strength, but also that they're mindful of those who are in need and they have chances to serve. One of the videos that's shared on the church's page for this lesson talks about a story about a young quorum president, and that he had a member of his quorum that had cerebral palsy, and just his love and concern for him. And the idea that he went to his house one day and his name was Dayton, he invited Dayton to come with him on a triathlon. And I wouldn't want to run a triathlon by myself.
No, probably not me either.
But the fact that this young man was willing, he basically pulled this fellow member of his quorum behind him when he's riding his bike. He's in a bike trailer. As he's running, he's pushing the jogger. As he's swimming, he's in a little dinghy being pulled behind him. The whole way he does this, and he does it because he loved those that he served in his quorum. And I think that that's a great example for us as adults and leaders, that we need to love those that we serve. It talks about kind of like those things that Christy had listed, more and more lists. I like this President Benson manual because there's lots of lists in it.
It makes it easy.
But one of those things is love for those that we serve and those that we lead.
And I'm thinking about, as we talk about the youth of the church and how crucial it is that they become good leaders, I think, too, as you become a leader, as you have experiences like the boy did who took care and helped Dayton, it helps them, too, to have more spiritual power. It helps them to become stronger in the gospel and strengthen their testimony. And how important it is that our youth need that as the world is getting more wicked, and how important that is. He also mentions the importance of confidence and having confidence in our children. I was thinking about leadership in my calling, and I'm the den leader for the Wolf Scouts, the 8-year-old boys. And I was thinking, okay, how am I expressing confidence, or how am I delegating, or how am I being a good leader of these boys, and how do I have opportunities to show leadership? And I was thinking, we've been trying really hard to have a dinner and give the boys responsibilities. Okay, you're going to take care of the chairs this week. You're going to do this, so that the boys can have their self-confidence grow. Okay, I'm going to come to church and I'm going to set the chairs. My job's going to be important. Or they're going to kind of forget, and the boys are going to pitch in and say, hey, we'll help you with the chairs. And as we see, they have opportunities to lead and do responsibilities, that they are growing in their testimonies, and they're learning how to become leaders themselves, which is what we need in this church for sure.
Yeah, and especially that idea of delegation. I think, it's almost a lost art. A lot of times we think if we're the leader, we have to do everything. That's our job, is to lead and to serve.
And Christ taught that the master or the leader, as he talked to husbands how they should be like Christ, and comparing himself, that they should be doing most of the work and serving and helping everyone, and delegating that for sure.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is that, to be a disciple and to be a servant and to serve, but at the same time delegating and giving other people that same opportunity. As you look at Christ's life, he didn't do all of his own preaching. He sent out 70s to carry his message. After his death and resurrection, or before his death, he called the apostles to serve, and he delegated his authority to them. And the same thing as quorum presidents and legislative presidents. A big part of your role is to delegate those things that you have stewardship over. And when you do that, you build new leaders. You give more people confidence in their ability to do the Lord's work. There was a great thing that I had a chance to serve on an elders quorum presidency, and our stake president, he talked to us as counselors, and he basically said that your role is to take as much off of your president's plate as you can. He's going to want to do everything, and you need to stop him. Let him serve, let him be in people's homes, but everything else that you can do to take it off his plate, do it. And I thought that was important, and how important it is that we do give our presidents opportunities to be in people's homes. It talks about here in the lesson, it says that when responsibility has been given, the leader does not forget the person assigned, nor his assignment. So this is basically when you've given an assignment as a leader. You can let it go, but you don't forget about it. It says that he follows with interest, but does not look over the shoulder. He gives specific praise when it is deserved. He gives helpful encouragement when needed. When he feels that the job is not being done and a change is needed, he acts with courage and firmness, but with kindness. When the tenure of an office has been completed, he gives recognition and thanks. I like the idea there about when something isn't being done right and a change needs to take place. And I think sometimes in the church we're afraid of hurting people's feelings. We're all here as volunteers, and it's hard when someone has been called to an assignment, and no matter what you do, they're not magnifying it, and they're not doing the good that needs to be done. And you've prayed about it, and you decided that a change needs to happen. And how important it is that it's done with tact and with kindness. But at the same time, having the courage to make a change and not just leaving someone in a calling that they're not thriving in and they're not blessing themselves or others in simply for the fact that you don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
And I like, too, how leadership can also apply to the home and how important it is that we delegate and we have our youth and our kids helping. There was a great blog post by a girl from our old stake, and she talked about the value of hard work and how her parents had taught her to work hard, and it was really great hearing her perspective and her she was asking and talking to her mom about it, and it was just a really great example of how important it is that we work with our children, that we strive to work alongside them, but also give them responsibilities and check up on them and follow up with them. Another important thing we should remember as we are striving to be good leaders is the importance of seeking out the Spirit, and that we are just instruments in Heavenly Father's hands, and not to feel that we're in charge of doing it our way, but striving to do the things the Lord would have us do, and trying to see what He would want us to do in all things.
Yeah, and that's the key, is that, like we talked about earlier with Christ delegating His authority, that's for us to act as He would and to do what He would do, either as leaders or as those who are being led, is to emulate Christ in all that we do and to become like Him. This is a great lesson, and we're really excited to be able to share it with you tonight. Now, we talked a little bit about Christy, her blog, Our Crazy Adventure. Christy, if someone were to stop by your blog, what was something they should probably check out that's pretty new and happening over there?
Well, it's October, so we're in full Halloween mode, so we like to do a family theme where our family dresses up as a theme. This year, our theme is Return of the Jedi. The children are pretty excited, and I have 2 costumes posted so far, so I'm hoping to get the next 4 posted in the next week. I have 2 more to make, so it's been really fun and busy, but the kids are excited, and it's probably my favorite time of the year, Halloween post, because I love costumes and dressing up.
It's true. So when Christy and I were dating, there were basically 3 things that I had promised her in order to get her to marry me. I promised that I would take her on the mission I talked her out of. I promised I'd take her dancing.
Yes.
And I promised we'd have matching Halloween costumes every year.
Pretty much.
And so I've kept my end of the bargain. We've matched every year. And so if you check out her blog, they've got basically an anthology of our matching costumes over the years. And right now, some really fun Star Wars ones that have pictures of our cute kids, which who doesn't want to look at cute pictures of our kids on the internet?
I don't know.
But there's also tutorials. And so if you're a Star Wars family like we are, there are some easy ways to make some quick costumes, especially if you're in a pinch and you've totally forgotten that, it's October.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, Halloween's in 2 weeks. So, my name is Grady of This Mormon Life. That's this-mormon-life.com. And if you stop by there, one of the things you're going to see during the month of October, last month was my unsabbatical, where I did everything that I was asked. And that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I've decided that I want to do something different every 30 days to help basically be better. I think that programs themselves can become stale over time, but there's principles that are underlying in those that we need to learn. So this week I'm taking after Elder Durant's counsel, and I'm ponderizing a scripture every week. And so if you stop by there, you're going to see the one that I posted last week, and You might even see the one I posted this week as well, depending on what time you stop by. And if
could they share their ponderize with you?
Please do. Please do. If you've got a scripture that you're ponderizing and you've got ideas or thoughts that you've had, share it. I'm really interested, especially because of some of the negative attention that ponderizing has gotten. I love hearing about people that have not been deterred by that, focus on the spirit that they felt during his talk, and have continued trying to better themselves by pondering and memorizing scriptures. And so join us next week. We're going to be talking about feeding my sheep. And until next time, we bid you all a fond adieu.